Hi, I am Rick Bonney, Director Emeritus of the Public Engagement and Science Program at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. This presentation is part of a 10-module training program on developing and implementing citizen science projects for which scientists collaborate with members of the public to address real-world problems. The goal for this program is to introduce fundamental concepts of citizen science in U.S. federal land management agencies, which often use citizen science to manage resources and to engage the public in agency missions. This program was developed by several partners, including staff from the U.S. Forest Service, the National Park Service, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Bureau of Land Management, and Schoodic Institute at Acadia National Park. This is the first module in our 10-module series. The next 9 modules will lead you through the process of citizen science project design, delivery, data, and evaluation. And if you watch all the presentations, you should develop a good sense of the basics of this awesome tool for data collection and public engagement. The goal of this module is to provide an overview of citizen science, its scope, breadth, and impacts, and to show how citizen science is being used and can be used by federal land management agencies, and it fits within our 10-part series here. Takeaways for this module are that first, citizen science can be used to address a wide array of environmental issues. Second, federal agencies use citizen science in a variety of ways. Third, federal agencies are empowered to employ citizen science. And fourth, while citizen science is a powerful tool, it is not a simple undertaking. Public lands across the United States face many challenges. Public agencies are tasked with managing the lands under their control for sustainable populations of fish, wildlife, and plants, for clean air and water, for maintenance of cultural sites, and for a variety of uses that may include grazing, energy development, or recreation. Accomplishing this task requires a vast amount of information. Managers need to understand changes in species abundance and distribution across time and space. They need to document changes in phenology over long spans of time. They need to know about the quality of air and water across landscapes, about the movements and distributions of invasive species, and about the locations and status of cultural resources. How can the information required for informed policy and management be gathered? One way is to facilitate public participation in scientific research, also known as citizen science, which employs the abilities and knowledge of individuals who are willing to pay close attention to their environment, record what they experience, and submit their information to centralized databases where it can be collated and analyzed for the benefit of science and society. Most federal and state agencies, as well as many non-governmental organizations, employ citizen science to some degree. In some cases, data collected by volunteers can supplement information already possessed by agency scientists and managers, whereas in other cases, citizen science is the only way that data can be collected in sufficient quantity, geographic expanse, and time frames to address significant environmental issues. How do federal agencies use citizen science? For starters, citizen science has been used extensively to monitor birds. Visitors to many parks, forests, grasslands, and refuges contribute data to eBird, which began collecting sightings from birders across the country in 2002. Since that year, 624,000 birders have submitted 51 million complete bird checklists, including 10,517 species, and papers based on eBird data now number in the hundreds. Agency staff frequently mine the eBird database to learn what birds are present at different times of year on the lands that they are entrusted to manage. Currently, eBird is the largest contributor to the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, known as GBIF, which is an international data network aimed at providing open access to data about all types of life on Earth. eBird also is a major contributor to the North American State of the Birds reports, which are used to help set bird conservation priorities across dozens of federal and state agencies. The 2022 State of the Birds report showed that birds are declining in every habitat except wetlands, where decades of investment and management have resulted in dramatic population gains. Land managers can use the information in this and previous reports to determine which bird species are most in need of management in the areas under their purview. Citizen science studies far more than birds, however. Some projects focus on entire landscapes. These include bioblitzes, for which teams of participants locate and document as many animals and plants as they can over a specific location, usually over the course of one day. An example is the Basin and Range BioBlitz at the Basin and Range National Monument, which has yielded data used to refine habitat models within the monument and to inform a monument resource management plan. Many bioblitzes are built on a citizen science platform called iNaturalist. This massive data collection tool has more than 1 million registered participants. Many of these observers contribute sightings not only during bioblitzes, but also on their visits to public lands every day, and their accumulated data can be mined to determine locations of plants and animals across landscapes. Like eBird, iNaturalist is a major contributor to GBIF. Still other citizen science projects focus on monitoring phenology, that is, seasonal and annual changes in the timing of events in nature. Some parks and refuges have set up phenology trails, such as the Rio Grande Phenology Trail at the Valle de Oro National Wildlife Refuge in Texas, and the Gulf Coast Phenology Trail in Big Branch Marsh, Sandhill Crane, and Grand Bay National Wildlife Refuges in Mississippi. Observers along these trails monitor the timing of leaf budding, plant flowering, and bird nesting to document local impacts of climate change. Data collected on these trails are usually submitted to a centralized database housed at Nature's Notebook, a project of the USA National Phenology Network. Like contributors to iNaturalist, many observers use Nature's Notebook to contribute sightings not only along phenology trails, but also on their regular outings, and these data can be examined to detect changes in phenology on public lands. Nature's Notebook is yet another major contributor to GBIF. Citizen science also is used to monitor water quality in parks, refuges, and forests. Alabama Water Watch has established a baseline of water quality observations within 6 priority watersheds in Alabama's national forests, and Utah Water Watch, for which the U.S. Forest Service has partnered with Utah State University, monitors the quality of Utah's waterways and provides water quality education. Citizen science also is applied to studies of cultural significance. For example, a project called Measuring Historic Structures was conducted by the National Park Service Southeast Region in 2016. Participants made structural measurements in Tuskegee Institute National Historic Site, Everglades National Park, Kennesaw Mountain National Battlefield Park, Cape Hatteras National Seashore, Fort Raleigh National Historic Site, and Wright Brothers National Memorial. The data were used to update the Southeast region's list of classified structures database. These examples show just a few of the myriad ways that citizen science data are being used. Citizen science is growing rapidly around the world, as evidenced by the development of hundreds of projects and the publication of thousands of peer-reviewed papers based on citizen science data. New publications appear in the literature each week, many in top-ranking journals, and several review papers have summarized the impacts of citizen science. For example, one called Citizen Science Can Improve Conservation Science, Natural Resources Management, and Environmental Protection was published in the journal Biological Conservation in 2017. All of the projects that we've described so far are data collection projects. These typically start with the need for data about an environmental or cultural phenomenon, such as the size or distribution of an animal population, a defined data collection protocol, so that all data will be collected in the same way and can be combined for analysis, and a willing audience, That is, a group of people with sufficient interest in the subject to be motivated to venture out and collect data. Data collection projects are sometimes called contributory projects because the participants contribute data to answer a question or to address an issue defined by scientists or resource managers. These are the projects most commonly implemented by federal agencies, and we provide many examples throughout the modules. Another form of contributory citizen science involves participants in working with data that already exist. For example, photos taken by wildlife cams rather than in collecting new information. Such data processing projects include Fishstery, which engages participants in classifying photos of historic fish catches to study changes in fish harvest over time. Data processing projects are widely employed in the citizen science field, but are not commonly developed by land-based federal agencies. Like data collection projects, data processing projects require a defined data management protocol so that all data can be classified in the same way and combined for analysis, and a willing audience, in this case a group of people disposed to spend hours in front of a computer screen processing images. Yet another group of citizen science projects are community-based projects, sometimes called community science. These typically start with a question about a local environment that directly affects a community. They often involve a partnership between community members and scientists to design and implement the project, and for this reason are sometimes referred to as co-created projects. They generally require an audience with a very direct interest in the project outcome. Some community-based projects are completely run by the community. While all of these types of citizen science have common goals, to increase scientific knowledge, to inform conservation or policy action, and to increase public scientific literacy, they differ in their techniques and audiences. When designing a citizen science project, it's important to consider which type or model is most appropriate for your situation. Public participation in scientific research goes by many names. In this training program, we use the term citizen science, which in the United States originated with the Cornell Lab of Ornithology around 1995, when lab staff desired a new name for what had been called the lab's cooperative research program. In Europe, the term also came into use in 1995 when Alan Irwin published his book Citizen Science, which focused less on public data collection and more on what he called scientific citizenship. Since 1995, the term citizen science has grown and flourished, having slightly different but complementary meanings in the different hemispheres. In most parts of the world today, citizen science refers primarily to projects that involve the public in collecting or processing data. In more recent years, the term has garnered controversy in some circles, primarily because it is perceived as being non-inclusive. Indeed, if the Cornell Lab of Ornithology staff in 1995 had any idea how use of the term would grow, even making it into the Oxford Dictionary in 2014, they would have thought harder about using the word citizen. While they were thinking of project participants as citizens of the world, it's understandable how some people have found the term problematic in the context of 21st century politics. For this reason, some groups have started replacing the term citizen science with the term community science, which can feel more inclusive. However, community science is a specific type of public participation in science that requires meaningful public involvement in multiple aspects of a project. We caution projects that adopt the term community science to be sure that they are employing truly inclusive approaches to project design. The federal government took a major step toward elevating citizen science through congressional and executive branch actions when it passed the Crowdsourcing and Citizen Science Act of 2017, which authorizes federal agencies to invest in and use citizen science to advance agency missions and to stimulate and facilitate broader public participation in science. The Act lists some of the benefits of citizen science. These include accelerating scientific research, increasing cost effectiveness to maximize the return on taxpayer dollars, addressing societal needs, providing hands-on learning in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and connecting members of the public directly to federal science agency missions and to each other. Clearly, the federal land management agencies have a green light to employ citizen science in their work. The 4 federal land management agencies that are partners in this training, the U.S. Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, the National Park Service, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, have taken this green light to heart. The Forest Service has contributed heavily to agency-based citizen science by setting up a citizen science competitive funding program in 2017. This program awards funds to Forest Service-based projects following a rigorous application process. Many of the projects highlighted in this toolkit have resulted from this program. The Forest Service also employs a full-time citizen science coordinator, maintains a citizen science community of practice, and a citizen science website, which includes a wealth of information about citizen science, including a toolkit that is the forerunner of the one that is part of this training. The Bureau of Land Management operates many citizen science projects, several of which are highlighted in this training. It employs citizen science co-coordinators, and in 2023 released a comprehensive crowdsourcing and citizen science action plan, Public Science for Public Lands Fiscal Years 2023 to 2028. This report is well worth reading by staff in all public agencies and could be used as a blueprint to develop action plans by any agency desiring to improve the development and power of citizen science throughout their organization. The National Park Service has employed citizen science for decades, and many of its projects are discussed in the modules that follow. The Park Service has citizen science co-coordinators and has developed a white paper outlining a strategic approach to citizen science throughout the service. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service also has employed citizen science for decades, and many service projects also are highlighted in this training. In 2018, the service commissioned a report on the status of citizen science within the agency. It includes numerous recommendations for strengthening service-based citizen science, including establishing an interagency citizen science working group, which led to the development of this series of presentations and the supporting toolkit. I hope that you can see that citizen science is a means of public engagement in scientific work that is expanding the scope, reach, and impact of research throughout federal land management agencies. Citizen science is providing opportunities to collect data at scales not feasible for professional scientists alone, and it is engaging members of the public in compiling and using issue-relevant evidence to effect change. Citizen science has the potential to address major challenges in conservation and natural resources management, particularly those that require attention to both social and scientific aspects of a problem. I hope that you are inspired to develop a citizen science project or to strengthen one that you are already running, and this training is designed to help. Module 2 describes situations in which citizen science is most appropriate as a research technique. This is a critical module to understand before diving into the citizen science project development process. Module 3 explains how to set goals and actionable objectives for a project. Modules 4 and 5 discuss how to build a project team to develop a project and how to engage participants, stakeholders, and partners in carrying out a project. Module 6 delves into collecting and reporting data and designing appropriate surveys. Module 7 describes how to get started in citizen science by adopting or adapting existing projects and/or using a citizen science project development platform. Module 8 explains how to recruit, train, and engage project participants. Module 9 discusses sharing project results with participants and the wider world. And Module 10 is about evaluating a project to determine its success. I hope that all of the information in this training will help you design, implement, or improve a project. But I also hope that it will show you that citizen science is not a simple undertaking. It often demands unexpected time and funding, as well as a willingness to understand what it takes to engage with the public. In resource management in particular, with so much at stake, citizen science provides the opportunity to reflect on and learn about the human dimensions of ecological research and environmental management, as well as about the science. If researchers and managers embrace the opportunity and the challenge to listen and learn as well as to interpret and share, we can fulfill the potential of citizen science to expand knowledge for science-based conservation.